Hello and welcome. You're watching Business Plus. I'm Shweta Kothari. We're bringing you stories from the world of business, policy and economy. First up, let's begin with headlines. Securities Appellate Tribunal gives clean chit to Zee's Punit Goenka, sets aside SEBI order banning him from holding key positions in a publicly traded company. Zee Sony merger likely to be back on track. An arbitration panel rules in favour of Tata Motors in the Singur Nano project case. West Bengal government told to pay 766 crores with interest to the company. Reports surface of a massive Aadhaar data leak, personal identifiable information of 815 million or 81.5 crore Indians leaked on the dark web. Ola, Uber, Porter rated as the worst digital platforms for gig workers in India. Fair Work India 2023 report highlights the plight of gig workers at well-known digital platforms. All those big stories we are tracking here on Business Plus. With me is Kartik Malhotra. Kartik, good morning.
Morning, Shweta.
A whole flurry of news items coming in, but let's begin with most important. It appears that the way ahead for Sony-Zee merger is now clear.
I think one more hurdle definitely crossed. The SAT ruling which has quashed the SEBI order which had barred both Punit Goenka and his father Subhash Chandra, the founder of Zee Entertainment, both of them being promoters at Zee Entertainment Enterprises Limited. Now one more hurdle crossed, where SEBI had originally barred them from holding management positions in any listed company. Now this was coming at a time when Sony and Zee were in talks and had pretty much come to the close of their deal on a merged entity, where Sony and Zee would together run a singular platform where Zee would continue to hold the management positions of managing director, Punit Goenka specifically, to be managing director for 5 years. Now this hurdle has also been cleared. Now the question really is SEBI going to contest this order, challenge this SAT ruling in the Supreme Court or not?
All right, let's understand the implication of the SAT order. Sriram Subramaniam of InGovern joining us at this point on the broadcast. Sriram, thank you very much for taking time out. Good to have you back. Tell us, what is the way ahead from here on? It appears that one more hurdle, one more roadblock is cleared for the merger. What is the SAT ruling states, and what is the likely future of the deal?
Firstly, the SAT ruling basically allows Punit Goenka to hold positions, and but tells SEBI to continue its investigation, and SAT also reserves that it can take actions in future based on the SEBI investigation. Two is, it comes down that SEBI should do investigations in a very time-bound manner. Three is, obviously now SEBI has the right to go and appeal to Supreme Court, and I would think they would do that, take it to Supreme Court. But at the end of the day, I'm saying that these two things should be dealing. The merger and Punit Goenka's being on the as a MD should be dealing, because at the end of the day, Punit Goenka will own only 4% of the merged entity. So 96% shareholders are suffering. Two is, the country would have got $1.5 billion of inflow from Sony as fresh infusion into the merged entity, and it would have created a listed MNC media company. So all this has been waiting, and it sends a wrong signal that it has taken 2 years to fructify a merger. So all these, I think, are roadblocks for the merger itself, and Zee's minority shareholders have suffered unnecessarily for 2 years.
Hi Sriram, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Kartik this side. I just want to, run your thoughts on the issue with respect to the sort of vote of confidence now that perhaps Sony Pictures has in this deal going forward. Remember, about 6 months ago or so in June, when SEBI had in fact come out with this order against Punit Goenka, there were news reports on Sony getting jittery about the deal altogether. Now with SAT quashing SEBI's order, do you think there is a little more faith reposed within Sony to go ahead and close this merger at the earliest now, with or without Punit Goenka as managing director, with or without SEBI contesting this SAT ruling in the Supreme Court?
Yeah, I think even 6 months ago, there was no issue of Sony having any jitters, I would think. Because at the end of the day, Sony India itself is feeling the heat. There is tough competition. Even Disney Plus Hotstar is supposed to be exiting. So Jio has come out really strongly in that sense in the media space. So all these are affecting the media industry itself. Now we have gone into a sort of a oligopoly situation with Jio and Zee Sony needed to be merged to create that sort of a momentum and to keep that competitive, I would say, stature in the place. So I would think Sony, if anything, would be more than happy if they are only worried about the timeline it is taking to fructify, for this merger to fructify.
Right. Now, I think the latest that came from Sony was that mid-November is when we are likely to see that merger going through. Mid-November, this statement came a few months back. Mid-November is just about 15 days or so from now. Do you think it can move at that pace, or are we still looking at a further delay in this merger?
No, I'm not sure exactly what is the time frame, but even if it happens by end of this calendar year, that is by December end, I think that would be good for the shareholders so that they can look at it from a new perspective this coming year. Because the final thing is the NCLT approval, which has already been got.
That's
but
right.
Again, there is a usually the second approval by NCLT. So if that comes through, I think it would be done. And
okay, and if the merger, sorry, Shweta, if the merger does go through by end of this calendar year, like you said, Sriram, and thereafter, if the Supreme Court, if SEBI were to go to Supreme Court, and if the Supreme Court were to now quash SAT's ruling and rule in favor of SEBI, then what happens? Should Punit Goenka be open to relinquishing the management position at the combined entity?
And does it also mean that there is a very limited window of opportunity that Zee has right now before SEBI goes to Supreme Court to challenge the SAT order to finalize the deal?
No, in fact, I would think that Punit Goenka has publicly also stated that he would like to see the deal happen irrespective of his being on AMD or not. And I would think that would be a fair result. At the end of the day, the merger cannot be held because Punit Goenka should be MD or not AMD. So irrespective of whether he's AMD or not AMD, the merger should go through. That would be the fair outcome.
All right, Sriram, thank you very much for joining us on that very, very crucial story. But Karthik, come to think of it, Zee would not want the merger to go through if Punit Goenka is not MD.
No,
would
so
they?
I think Zee had come out with a statement clarifying its position that it wants to go ahead with the merger irrespective. But I think that, like you mentioned, the window of opportunity is ripe right now. That window is wide open for the merger to go through quickly before SEBI goes to the Supreme Court, if it also SEBI decides to do that.
All right. So, and whether SEBI decides to do that or not will be clear in a couple of days' time.
Right.
From now. So we keep tracking that story very, very closely. But moving away from Zee to another big Indian corporate, that is Tata, it appears that Tata Nano project has finally got the vindication that it needed and a compensation also to the tune of 400 crore rupees and above from West Bengal. At least the ruling, the arbitration panel ruling, has come in favor of Tata.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if it is really, anything that Tata Nano, the project that actually started in 2008 and ended in 2018, has much to rejoice about, but I think it's definitely a personal victory for Ratan Tata. So if you remember, jog your memory back 2006, 2007, when the Tata Nano factory was originally, in fact, set up in Singur, over 100 acres of agriculture land, and the plant had been set up well on its timeline to produce India's cheapest car, people's car, a 1 lakh rupee car, which was Ratan Tata's vision for India, called the Tata Nano. And just in the nick of time, protests by farmers on the compensation they received for the agriculture land, prompted by present Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, no less, and really driving out forcefully Ratan Tata's dream out of West Bengal, all the way to the west of India, to Gujarat, Sanand specifically, sort of shattering the cost advantage, shattering the timeline of the Tata Nano project. But Tata Nano, in any case, was released. Ratan Tata's promise of a 1 lakh rupee car was delivered, but the case has been on. 15 years too late, perhaps? But a compensation 766 crore rupees, I would like to call it perhaps just a nano victory for Tata Motors right now. It's a small victory, but a victory nonetheless.
But, I mean, may not be a big compensation, but at least a victory in spirits.
A victory in spirit. I think Ratan Tata definitely standing vindicated and being awarded the 766 crore rupees, perhaps pocket change for him. But yeah, definitely a sign of victory, a sign that, yeah, a unanimous decision by the 3-member arbitral tribunal coming to an end in favor of Ratan Tata. WBIDC, which is the West Bengal Industrial Development Corporation, is going to pay Tata Motors the 766 crore rupees, and there is going to be an 11% interest levied on it from September 2016 until the final payment is made. So it's not just 766, it's 766 plus 11% per annum until that payment is made.
And also this has political implications because leading from the front was Mamata Banerjee.
I think Mamata Banerjee has been in power for more than 10 years now. It's an old case. Will it really be, a vote of no confidence on a decision she had taken in 2008 when she was not in power, when she was not the chief minister? I don't think there is much political message to draw out of it right now. But definitely a message for Ratan Tata, like I said, that that perhaps the compensation that was paid and perhaps the protests that were at that time allegedly politically motivated were not to the best economic interest of the state.
Absolutely, not to the best economic interest of state, and that is what a lot of people said at that point. Sort of vindication for Tata, but also could be a political messaging. We have to wait and watch out for what sort of implication it has on Mamata Banerjee. But moving on now to a story we are tracking coming in by the way of reports that are released in media. It appears that there's been an Aadhaar data breach. Aadhaar data breach.
Yet again.
Yet again, but the biggest ever. Look at the number of people whose data has been breached. 81.5 crore Indians.
That's right, Shweta, and unfortunate as it may be, Aadhaar, ever since UIDAI under the leadership of Nandan Nilekani started this entire Aadhaar project, about 1.4 billion Indians have been registered on Aadhaar. A data breach pertaining to almost 70% of the total number of Aadhaar holders in India, amounting to about 850 crore Indians, is obviously a big deal. Now, the point is, it's not just Aadhaar details which are up for sale. You also have passport details. You also have phone numbers and addresses, which addresses both resident in Aadhaar as well as the passport, and phone numbers available registered with Aadhaar, all up for sale for as little as $80,000 on the dark web. Now, I think the question I really want to ask right now, I don't have an answer to it, and maybe we'll just let it hang in the air, is that we have introduced the DPDP, Digital Data Protection Bill, which sort of, compels companies which are found to be in breach of enough security to prevent a data breach to pay up. Now, even if UIDAI is asked and is held accountable for this breach of data, is a payment of what 500 crores going to be enough? The point is, you have sensitive information, personal information available for anyone who has $80,000 available to pay on the dark web and get access to. Imagine the kind of misuse, the amount of rampant extortion, etc. that can happen on the basis of this data. I think it's a question that the government needs to really investigate, ask itself, have independent inquiries into UIDAI. Remember, in April last year, 2002, the CAG had found lapses in the encryption technology used to protect data of citizens on UIDAI platform. Now, what happened to that inquiry? What were the rectifications made? What were the remedies? And eventually, how safe is your Aadhaar? What are the safeguards that we as individuals need to do? Should we lock the Aadhaar card? Should we apply for
biometrics?
Renew the biometrics? I don't know. So, I think there's a lot of unanswered questions right now hanging in the air. This is not the first time that Aadhaar data has been breached. In fact, in August this year, there was another instance of data breach. I don't remember the number. It wasn't as large as this, but there was 1.8 terabytes worth of data available for sale on the dark web. Now, another report coming this time from a firm called Resecurity, that 81 million Indians or 815 odd Indians million Indians stand in a compromised situation.
All right, we don't know the extent of the data breach, but we do know Aadhaar details of as many as 815 million Indians is now out. This essentially hinting at gap in safety measures. The government of India, of course, expected to take note of that and come out with a response. We will be tracking those details here on Newsline. But moving on to a story we are tracking by the way of a Fair Work India 2023 report that has come out and highlighted the grim working conditions of gig workers in India. A lot of companies have been named, including Ola, Uber, Porter, rated as the worst digital platforms to be working in as gig workers. Now, what does the report say? Report says that when measured on 10 parameters of fair working condition, including wage, working hours, working condition, fair representation, most of these companies do not do very well.
So, Shweta, I think, we've got to look at this in context of how this entire gig economy kick-started in India. Now, it was very simple back then when you had Ola and thereafter you had Uber, and I'm just taking these two as examples. I think this translates to everything from Zomato to Swiggy to Blinkit to Zepto across the board, Flipkart, Big Basket. Right?
Those are the companies that have done well.
Right. So I think this entire concept of gig economy started at a time when there were a lot of incentives on the table to attract freelancers or gig economy workers to come on board as delivery partners on all of these platforms, including cab aggregators, quick commerce, e-commerce platforms, etc. So there was this entire spurt of everybody leaving their resident, not very well paying, but perhaps more assured jobs, coming in lured by great money to be made. Now, great money often is not sustainable when you're growing at the scale at which all these companies, Ola, Uber, etc. grew. So the point is you continue to attract gig workers on the basis of certain examples that you had set on how their quality of life and quality of living, their wages could increase manifold by coming onto these platforms. Now, what happened many years on, because of the scale, the cost of operations had to be hemmed in. Now, you continue to engage with contractual workers, but your wages to them continued to shrink. In addition to that, longer working hours meant more number of deliveries, passengers or goods as the case may be, more number of deliveries, incentivized on the amount of work you're doing, incentivized on how many orders are you fulfilling in a day, and the fixed component of the salary being really low, and the variable component sort of defining how much money are you really going to take home.
And that's very interesting because the report also points out that many of these digital platforms do not adhere to the minimum wage policy, which means the fixed income is very low as compared to the variable income.
Absolutely.
Where you get more money on the basis of how many deliveries you make or passengers you carry.
Sure, but the point is, you have signed a contract. How watertight that contract is or how porous that contract is, I think is for the legal fraternity to look into and comment upon. But my limited point being, you have engaged with somebody who perhaps does not have a better opportunity cost. What he or she is giving up on to work with you means that what you're offering is more lucrative than what they have available in the market. So I don't want to go hammer and tongs on the aggregators and the quick commerce companies and the cab delivery partners, but the point really being that you're offering them something that they are willingly accepting. Now, if they are accepting what you're offering,
exploitation.
It's exploitation if you don't leave them with a choice. You don't put a gun on their heads.
Which we know they don't have a choice in absence of any fair economic opportunity.
So there is no better place for them to work, and hence they continue slogging here. Now, should companies be more socially responsible, more cautious? I don't know. At the cost of what? At the cost of incurring losses and shutting down business and not being able to even support who they are employing. So I think it's a fine balance which companies have to make at their own level. It's a function of pure economics versus the social contract you have with the gig economy workers, and find a balance where it does not border exploitation and there is a little more fairness, if not in the compensation, which you as a company may be able to ill afford, but then at least in working conditions. But then again, working conditions is a function of how long you are working, how much more money you as an individual contributor of the gig economy want to take home, and hence you continue working hard. It's a vicious cycle. You continue working longer, you continue working odd hours because your variable pay is dear to you because you want to take home as much money as you can. So I think reports are easy to make, but the point is, at one point these companies are also offering employment to a large mass of low-skilled or unskilled labor who did not have an opportunity outside of the gig economy that they are earning money from.
Absolutely. Working opportunity to people who don't have those opportunities, but hopefully not at the cost of fair working conditions and minimum wage policy, better working conditions. I think we would all like that to happen. Also, as far as bottom line is not compromised. So perhaps a solution which is win-win for both parties. But that's all we have in this bulletin. We've run out of time. Thank you very much for watching.